Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on our next deep dive into human behavior, relationships, and what makes people tick. Today we're talking about something that's been buzzing around for a while: narcissism. Specifically, we're diving into a very intriguing and often misunderstood area of narcissism, how it plays out in intimate relationships, and why individuals with narcissistic traits often avoid true emotional intimacy in the bedroom. It's going to be an eye-opener, so let's get into it. Narcissism has always been a hot topic. You've probably heard the term thrown around in casual conversation, maybe even too often, because let's be real, we've all had moments of self-focus. But here we're not talking about the usual moments of pride or confidence. We're digging into the personality trait that goes deeper, affecting how people relate to others, particularly in intimate situations. When it comes to narcissism, it's not just about grandiosity and attention-seeking. There's a lot more going on under the surface, and the dynamics that unfold in the bedroom offer a striking lens through which to understand why people with narcissistic tendencies struggle with authentic intimacy. Narcissism, at its core, is driven by a need for control, admiration, and validation. Someone with narcissistic tendencies craves attention like a flower craves sunlight, constantly feeding off the energy of others to maintain their inflated sense of self-worth. However, this need comes at a price, namely an inability to form deep, genuine connections. You might ask, how does this play out in the most intimate area of their life, the bedroom? Well, it's complicated. To understand why a narcissist avoids true intimacy, we need to break down their inner world a bit. On the outside, narcissists might appear confident, charming, and even seductive. In fact, many narcissists are great at attracting partners. They know how to put on a show, to draw people in with their charisma, and make you feel like you're the most important person in the world. But this is where things start to fall apart, because this outer charm is just a mask, a performance designed to secure admiration and avoid rejection. When you peel back the layers, you find that narcissists are often deeply insecure. Despite their outward bravado, they have a fragile sense of self that can be easily threatened. Real intimacy, the kind that requires vulnerability, makes them feel exposed. You see, for most people, intimacy, whether it's emotional or physical, is built on trust, openness, and a willingness to let someone else see the real, flawed, and imperfect version of you. But for narcissists, this is terrifying. Their entire identity is constructed around an idealized self-image, one that they work hard to maintain. True intimacy challenges this illusion. It requires them to drop the act, to stop performing, and to connect on a human level. And that is something they're not equipped to do. This fear of vulnerability manifests in a number of ways. In the bedroom, a narcissist might appear engaged and attentive at first, but their motivations are usually more self-serving than they seem. For them, sex isn't necessarily about connection. It's about control, validation, and maintaining their inflated self-image. They may view their partner not as an equal participant in an intimate exchange but as a tool to satisfy their own needs, whether that's the need for admiration, a sense of conquest, or simply the fulfillment of their own desires. In this sense, their focus is often on the act itself rather than the emotional connection behind it. Now, it's not that narcissists don't crave affection or attention. In fact, they desperately need it. But their need for admiration often outweighs their capacity to give in return. This dynamic can create a lopsided experience in the bedroom. They may be attentive and skilled in the technical aspects of intimacy because it feeds into their need to be admired as a great lover, but there's usually something missing. That something is emotional depth, the genuine desire to connect, to give, and to share an intimate space with their partner. The narcissist often keeps things superficial to protect themselves from emotional exposure. In the early stages of a relationship, this might not be so obvious. They can be incredibly charming, passionate, and seemingly attentive, making their partner feel special and desired. But over time, their lack of emotional availability becomes apparent. Partners of narcissists often describe feeling used, unfulfilled, and emotionally distant, even when the physical connection seems fine on the surface. It's as if the narcissist is going through the motions of intimacy without ever really being present. One of the biggest challenges with narcissists is their inability to be truly present in the moment with another person. Their focus is so inward, so consumed with maintaining their ego and avoiding any form of rejection or criticism, that they can't fully engage in the mutual exchange that true intimacy requires. Intimacy involves risk. The risk of being seen, the risk of being rejected, and the risk of letting someone else in. For a narcissist, these risks are simply too great to bear. So they keep their emotional walls up, even when their physical walls come down. This avoidance of vulnerability doesn't just affect romantic relationships. It can spill over into all areas of life. Narcissists often struggle with friendships, family connections, and even professional relationships because of this same underlying issue. The fear of being truly seen and potentially judged or rejected leads them to prioritize control over connection. In the bedroom, this manifests as an emotional distance that can leave their partners feeling empty, even if the physical aspects of the relationship seem fine. But here's where things get even more complex. Many narcissists are not consciously aware of this dynamic. They may not realize that they're avoiding intimacy, nor do they necessarily understand why their relationships feel unfulfilling over time. Instead, they often blame their partners, accusing them of being too needy or too demanding, when in reality, it's their own inability to connect that's causing the friction. This is a classic narcissistic move, deflecting responsibility and projecting their own issues onto others. When a narcissist feels their partner getting too close, they may pull away, emotionally and sometimes physically. This distancing can take many forms. They might start to criticize their partner more, finding faults and nitpicking in an effort to create emotional space. Or they might withdraw altogether, becoming cold and distant. In extreme cases, they might even turn to infidelity or other forms of self-sabotage as a way of avoiding the emotional vulnerability that comes with deepening intimacy. For the partner of a narcissist, this experience can be incredibly confusing and painful. At first, they might feel like they've found someone who truly gets them, someone who is attentive, passionate, and seemingly devoted. But over time, they start to realize that the emotional connection they're seeking just isn't there. They might try harder to please the narcissist, hoping to regain that initial spark, but their efforts are often met with indifference or even hostility. The narcissist, meanwhile, continues to focus on their own needs, often unaware or unconcerned with the emotional toll they're taking on their partner. It's important to note that narcissism exists on a spectrum. Not all narcissists are the same, and not all of them will avoid intimacy in the same way. Some may be more self-aware and capable of forming meaningful connections, while others may be so deeply entrenched in their narcissistic defenses that they're almost entirely disconnected from their emotions. In any case, the common thread is the fear of vulnerability, the fear of being truly seen for who they are, flaws and all. So, what can you do if you find yourself in a relationship with a narcissist? First and foremost, it's important to recognize the signs and understand that their behavior isn't about you. Narcissists are driven by their own insecurities and fears, and no amount of love or effort on your part can fix them. It's also essential to set boundaries and prioritize your own emotional well-being. Being in a relationship with a narcissist can be draining, especially when it comes to the emotional disconnect that often occurs in the bedroom. In some cases, therapy can be helpful, both for the narcissist and their partner. For the narcissist, therapy can provide a space to explore their underlying fears and insecurities, and to develop healthier ways of relating to others. However, therapy only works if the narcissist is willing to engage with it and take responsibility for their behavior, which can be a big hurdle given their tendency to deflect blame. Ultimately, intimacy is about connection, trust, and vulnerability, all things that narcissists struggle with. While they may be able to go through the motions of intimacy, the emotional depth that makes those moments meaningful is often missing. For their partners, this can lead to feelings of confusion, frustration, and heartbreak. Understanding the narcissist's mindset can help you make sense of their behavior, but it's also important to recognize when it's time to prioritize your own needs and step away from a relationship that isn't fulfilling. Alright folks, that's all for today's discussion on narcissism and intimacy. I hope this gave you some valuable insights into why individuals with narcissistic traits avoid true emotional closeness, especially in the bedroom. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future content. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
When I make videos, I often talk about how pointless it is to get back at narcissists. I stress how important it is to keep moving forward and rebuilding yourself instead of holding on to anger. I also stress that you can't cause the narcissist as much pain as they have caused you. It seems almost impossible to win these kinds of fights. It's important to remember, though, that even though narcissists might not say it, some acts can hurt them. This piece will put light on some of these big effects by going into these dynamics in more depth. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our show. If you're new to our site and want to learn more about narcissistic abuse, we encourage you to consider subscribing. During our talks, you can ask any questions you want without giving your name. Let's get right to the point. Not paying attention to a narcissist is one of the best ways to hurt their feelings. Not getting your attention is bad for everyone, but for a narcissist who needs your energy, attention, and praise, it's like their life source is cut off. They hate how this makes them feel. At first, they liked that you seemed like a strong partner who would never leave them. Ignoring them hurts their self-esteem because of this. They have to work even harder to get your attention or find someone else who cares about them because you don't. Most of the time, they use a mix of methods because they don't have a favorite. They like it when you're weak and simple to control. Why is it so bad to ignore them? They don't want to say it, but they are shocked and confused by the idea that you will never talk to or meet them again. They are less proud of their big egos because of it. They can't control you anymore, which means you've won. Take charge and stop letting their bad behavior hurt you. You will come out on top. They're very upset that you no longer back them. Even if it's in their nature to move on, cutting them off from everything will make a memory that will last. And now for another important point, let's talk about the narc injury, which is a big blow to narcissists' self-esteem. This narcissistic injury can happen when you hold the narcissist responsible, set limits, or criticize them, which can cause a lot of emotional pain. It doesn't matter if the feedback is professional and helpful or hurtful and embarrassing. It still hurts. It's the same as poking a hole in their bloated sense of self-importance. It's important to remember that, unlike us, narcissists have a very skewed view of reality. This skewed version of truth is their safe place. So, when you question this fake story, they have to face themselves, even if only for a short time. They are hurting from this fight because they hate themselves inside. They strongly deny that they did anything wrong. In an earlier video, I talked about how I hurt the narcissist deliberately by accident. In the same way, other people have talked about how they have purposely or accidentally caused similar injuries. These kinds of things always hurt the narcissist's pride and have a lasting effect. So, survivors who accidentally cause narc injuries are less likely to be manipulated in the future, or at the very least, the narcissist will have to try much longer to manipulate them again. They will carefully think about what they can do before trying to get in touch with you again. Finally, I want to say that rejection causes narcissists a lot of long-term pain. You have power over the narcissist because you chose to end the connection and walk away. Narcissists like to be in charge, so they'd rather end the relationship than let it happen. They carefully set up a new support system so that they can end the relationship on their own terms. If they leave, it will be easy for them to make up a story that makes them look like the victim and get help and sympathy. This makes it easier for them to start a more effective campaign to spread lies about you. As a way to feel better, they might say things like, "I had no choice but to leave, they were dishonest and unfaithful," and more. But when you break up with them, they can't use these tricks to get what they want. They might have a hard time finding someone who can help them like you did. They might look for help somewhere else, but they don't want to rely on it completely. Even though they try to trick you and play the victim, their tricks won't work once you're gone. By cutting them off, you make it harder for them to keep their home or money, which makes their problems even worse. I want to stress again that they never expect or urge you to leave and stay away on your own. These kinds of acts have a lasting effect on them and change their minds deeply. To get a better sense of this relationship, I strongly suggest that you go back and look at point number 2. Now let's talk about the 4th point, move forward. A familiar story comes out of emails, face-to-face meetings, and live chats with many survivors. I had moved on. It made me feel better. I quit dwelling on the past. Things were going well in my life. Still, they always try to pull me back in. The same process happened to me. They feel like they're getting better. Let me send them an arbitrary "I miss you" message to stop them in their tracks with pain. One of the many things about their behavior that confuses me is that my point of view doesn't match up with what they do. Even though we're giving them very little, they can't stand the thought of us going on. Isn't it strange? Even though we don't offer anything, they can't stand the thought of us going forward. Do you get it? People who are narcissists leave when they want to. You think they won't come back, so they throw me away. But just as we start to feel better, they come back. It seems like they can see a chance to trick you. They understand without thinking about it. It is, in fact, confusing. They need us or don't need us. The reasons behind their timing is still not clear. 3 months later, I was tricked again. Some say they were tricked after only 1 month of growth. It's always hard for me to understand why their timing is always off. But let's forget about my complaints. If you're happy and fulfilled in life without sexual relationships, your growth and healing in love don't matter. They try to get back into your life and stop you from moving forward as you start to heal, get better, and take charge of your life, maybe through support groups or therapy. They don't want you to be happy or successful, so I doubt they know this. Studies show that they are jealous and insecure about everything. Your leaving has a big effect on them and will stay with them forever. Let us sum up. There are a lot of narcissists who won't admit that their acts hurt them because it would hurt their pride. They will try to keep up a front of toughness or indifference. Narcissists may feel bad when you do these things, but they will probably find approval and pleasure somewhere else in their never-ending search for perfection. It happens over and over again. You shouldn't think that any of these actions will magically change a narcissist or make them continuously chase you. While they may think about these things for a short time and feel uneasy, they will eventually move on and stop following. It's going to happen. When dealing with a narcissist, the best thing to do is to step away and focus on your own health and healing. Not because they want to get even, but because they know that some acts can make them feel uncomfortable, and that feeling might last for a long time, even if they never tell anyone. They won't be able to keep after you forever. Many of these problems are solved by putting your own needs first and making changes to make your life better. This method works well because it lets you reach several goals with just one move. Narcissists are always afraid of being forgotten, which is the 5th thing that stays with them. To keep their feelings up, narcissists need praise and attention. Even writing this, just thinking about them makes me tired. When people forget about them, it hurts their pride even more. It becomes clear to them that they are not as necessary as they think they are. The world does not spin around them as they believe it does. Realizing this might make them want to take back control. If they feel like someone is slowly pulling away from them, they may act out to get attention. Don't let these people bother you for a long time. I know this for sure because I've seen them go to great lengths. They keep coming back, even if you're not aware of it. Some of them stay for a long time. Another thing that hurts a narcissist a lot is when you move on with someone else. This could be put in the category of moving on, but I wanted to make it stand out to show how important it was. You can move on with your life without them, whether you find a new partner or choose to be alone. They hate both situations, but seeing you with someone else is much worse because it makes them feel like we do when we see our friends get together with someone new. They look at their situation the same way we do. They get jealous and start to wonder things like, what makes this new person so special? What's going on here? In this case, a narcissist might try to get back in charge by trying to get your attention off of your new relationship and onto them again. And, like us, they think about a lot of the same things we do. They feel self-loathing similar to how we might feel when we see you move on with someone else and find happiness and growth in your life. They have a hard time letting go of this. Now let's jump into the comments and spill some tea. Tell me what you think makes a narcissist really angry. Let's talk about times when you hurt their ego or made them feel selfish, whether you meant to or not. Speaking of spilling the tea, it means to share juicy rumors or secret information, or to dish the dirt. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, whether they are true or false. Also, don't worry about the swearing now and then. Let your thoughts run wild. I think it's funny, so I don't delete those comments.